Welcome to 5 Minutes in the Word, a daily devotional in the Word of God. You know, Mr. Gary, we've been answering a lot of questions recently, and I have small children at the house, so they're all the time asking Bible questions, and I was thinking, how would I best describe to them what sin is?
Oh yeah, and a lot of children want to know that. Some at an amazingly young age become sensitive to that idea.
They do.
And they consider themselves sinners even, and they may be, but more than likely not. Because they don't really understand things. I guess the quickest place to turn to, in my mind, would be Psalm 51, where David says, "Have mercy upon me, O God, according to your loving kindness, according to the multitude of your tender mercies. Blot out my transgressions." All right, so there's your first word for sin. And there, transgressions is kind of like crossing the line, you might say. God's drawn a line here, don't go past this, but you do it anyway.
Well, I know as a parent, we draw lines in the sand all the time for them not to cross.
Yeah.
I get that.
Okay. And you can use that as an illustration for your children. And then he goes on, "Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity." And that's a different description of sin. Describing it as, when you think about iniquity, you think about the impurity and how that just totally doesn't fit God at all, and we need to get away from that. And then he finally says, "And cleanse me from my sin." And literally the word sin, like in a place like that, is to miss the mark. So when you think about a guy shooting an arrow, and he's trying to kill a deer, and he doesn't even, goes wide, he didn't touch him at all. Well, he sinned. That is a true description of what it is.
Okay. Well, I think those are good. It's always good to have multiple words to use with a child, especially to help them understand the fullness of what it means. I'm reminded, I believe it's 1 John chapter 3 and verse 4. I believe it's 1 John chapter 3 and verse 4. Let's turn over there. And what it says is that everyone who makes a practice of sinning also practices lawlessness. Sin is lawlessness. And so here we have a breaking of law, and specifically with sin, it's the breaking of God's law. Now, we've already talked about this before. There was the old law. It's been done away. Jesus Christ came and he brought about his new covenant, his New Testament. And so we're breaking God's law when we sin. And that kind of leads us to the discussion of what is righteousness, because in order to be righteous, you're righteous before God, you're doing right before God. And that...
It also says something else, though. We want to pick up on, because John, in 1 John, does something that at first may throw us off a little bit. And the idea is that there's a difference between a one-time I stumbled act and a continual practice of. And here, when he uses the word commits, that word is linear. It means you keep on doing it.
Well, that's what the ESV says. It says makes a practice of sinning.
That's it. That's it.
And it puts it in that terms. That's exactly right. And that's good to explain to children. Yeah. It's good to let them know that. I think sometimes in talking about sin that we need to talk about this knowledge of what is right and wrong, good and evil, because when we think about that, especially with a child, that's how they sort things out in their mind.
Oh yeah.
So you come on down and you look into James chapter 4, verse 17. It says, "So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin." So here you're dealing with someone that they know right and wrong. They know what they should be doing versus what they should not be doing. And they choose to do the wrong thing. They're making that choice, and that's what sin is. It's us, transgressing against the law, committing iniquities, falling short, committing lawlessness, all of those things.
Oh yeah.
That's what sin is.
Yeah.
And I thank you. Thank you for helping me kind of hone that in a little bit to be able to talk to my children a little bit more. We hope that all of you will see what sin is, and also see what we can all do about our sin problem.
Yes.
And the answer to sin is Jesus Christ. Thank you for joining us for 5 Minutes in the Word, and we will see you all next time on another 5 Minutes in the Word. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.